Okay, so this is the last video lecture, and in this one I want to talk briefly about parenting teenagers and being a single parent. There's just a couple, special tips for when you're parenting teenagers. One of them, I think, it kind of goes along with a previous topic, and one of them is with the good is good enough parenting idea. I think sometimes, when you get to when the kids get to be teenagers, there feels like there's a lot of conflict, and it's important to remember that conflict is normal. And it's a normal part of the teenager relationship. I always think about something I learned about it was evolutionary psychology. And what the researcher said is, imagine if your 16-year-old or your 15-year-old cared about you or liked you as much at 15 as they did at 5. And in reverse, imagine how a parent, if they liked their kid as much at 15 as they did at 5, our children would never leave home. They would never go anywhere. That it's the natural process to conflict, to be in a conflictual, to turn away from our parent when we are a teenager, or we'll never leave home. So it's okay. It's okay. It's normal for teenagers and parents to disagree, right? I can remember having conflicts and fights with my daughter, and she would just be sobbing. And I'd say, look, it's the way it's supposed to be. My job is to be the parent and to set boundaries and to set rules. Your job is to try to stretch and to be independent. And I'm telling you no, and it's perfectly okay for you to be angry with me about that, right? Because that's the way the relationship is supposed to go, quite honestly, right? But in the meantime, you still love them, right? You do the best. Sometimes it's really hard when they're teenagers. You can't find anything that they're doing good, right? But also we have to be very clear, because one of the things that teenagers are trying to figure out is, like, where's their boundaries? What can I get away with? So it's really important that as parents, we be very clear, very explicit. This is what I expect of you. Do you understand? You know what that means? Tell it back to me. And don't let us not assume that they know what's expected, right? Because sometimes, your perfect 12-year-old has become, this spoiled 14-year-old. Be very clear and provide information and not answers. This theme, hopefully you picked up on this theme by now. This theme is to empower our children to make their own decisions. If we solve all their problems, we're not helping them, right? But we give them the tools, we give them the information. Look, this is what's important to your mother. This is what's important to your father. Consider this perspective, figure it out for yourself. And sometimes that can be very frustrating to teenagers. Think about yourself when you're told to solve your own problems. It can be but that's how you learn. That's how you grow. And then your textbook has this. I suggest that you can also get this technology to put in your cars to make sure they're safe driving. Right? We didn't have that when I was growing up, but I guess there's these nifty devices that I don't know how they work. But anyway, one of the suggestions. And then finally, the last topic is single parenthood. Or single parent issues. A couple distinctions. There's a difference between a single parent family, and that is a child or children and one adult. That would be a single parent family. A single parent household, sometimes called a binuclear household. That's where in the household there's only one adult, but there may be two households with one adult. So, like divorced households kind of thing, two adults living apart. There is no reason to believe that one adult cannot sufficiently parent children. But it is harder, right? And that's kind of what this one over here says, is that it is harder simply because there are fewer people to divide the labor. There is only one lap instead of two. There's only two hands instead of four. There's only two eyes instead of four. So it's doubling the workload when one person does it. However, some really important things to point out is that for the parent, especially for a woman, she often reports that it's easier for her to parent. She has less stress parenting. There's less conflict, right? Because when there are two or more, or when there are two adults, one adult may have one philosophy of parenting or one expectation. The other adult may have a different expectation. So this can create tension between the adults, right? Because I want to do it this way, you want to do it this way, and then they fight about it. It can also make it hard on the kid because the kid may be trying to manipulate the situation. With this parent, I have this expectation. With this parent, I have this expectation. In this case, it's kind of like training a dog. When we are more consistent, the dog learns faster. Same thing with kids. So with that parent, I can stay up till 9 o'clock. With that parent, I have to go to bed at 7:30. When it's just you, when all those rules are yours, when that house is yours, there's none of this. There's none of this conflict between adults. There is none of this conflict, none of this manipulation of the other adults. So in that sense, it can be easier. However, if it's women, women often make less money, right? So this may cause household finance issues. It may be harder. There may be more stress associated with her work. There's issues of guardianship, right? When you have two, one parent dies, you know where the other one's going to go. And basically, and then if there's multiple kids, it may be hard for a single parent to divide their time and their needs between 3 children. And again, if there's 2 adults, it's a little bit easier. So, meeting the needs of the family, coping with finances, guardianship, and then there is something in the textbook about single moms and prenatal care. I suspect this has as much to do with finances as anything else. But it doesn't actually. Yeah, it is right there. Single moms report less child-parent conflict. Okay, well, that ends this chapter, the chapter on diversity in parenting. Thank you for listening.